Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we have here an example of, well, what the hell did you expect? Everybody told you, so don't be surprised. This time it's Germany, where a state leader has said that the push for green and renewables has been a complete and unmitigated failure. And you know who said it would be? Everyone who's not a green. Remember how they laughed at Donald Trump when Trump said if you hand over your energy supply to Putin, you'll be in trouble. They laughed at him. We now have a point in Germany where they are rationing gas, turning off hot water in public buildings, and are even talking of the prospect of 3-day weeks because they cannot keep factories open due to the lack of energy. Let's look at this and laugh at the schadenfreude of it all. So, energy crisis. The state prime minister declares green energy transition has failed, and it was always going to. Germany's green energy transition from carbon fuels and nuclear energy to renewables has failed, a state prime minister has declared. Germany's green energy transition efforts to see the country move from using fossil fuels and nuclear energy and towards green renewables have failed, the Prime Minister of the federal state of Saxony has declared, before demanding the country's government to rethink its abandonment of nuclear to avert disaster. And in fact, the Poles are actually paying Germany at the moment to keep the nuclear power stations open, but all the power from these power stations are going to Poland. They aren't going into the German grid because, hey, Germany doesn't need nuclear power. But the Poles do, and so they're paying the Germans to take their nuclear power into Poland. Madness. Having gotten itself addicted to Russian gas exports, Germany has for a long time held on to the belief, the mad, irrational belief, that pushing its climate-crazy green agenda harder would solve its energy problems, and that the country would be able to shut down all of its nuclear power stations without issue. It should be pointed at this stage that in fact, in terms of greenness of carbon output, nuclear is absolutely the best option. But the Greens won't have that because they're all mental. According to a report by Handelsblatt, however, as the country faces the possibility of gas shortages and blackouts over the winter months, Saxony Prime Minister Michael Kretschmer has labelled the country's green transition a failure and is now demanding that the country's remaining nuclear power stations stay online. The energy transition with gas as the baseload has failed, he reportedly said, with the publication noting that even before the current gas crisis, green energy struggled to supply sufficient power in the country last winter. As long as the federal government has not developed a new concept for the energy transition, nuclear power plants must continue to run, he went on to say. And they have to. Germany has to keep the nuclear power stations open if Germany wants to, I don't know, make cars or live or not freeze. Because they haven't got enough gas. Because Putin has turned it off. Now, not all the way off, but he's throttled it right back to about 20%. They have just enough to keep people warm in the winter in their homes. They haven't got enough to generate electricity to keep the, Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen going. So that's the German car industry, well and truly up a creek without a paddle. And without the German car industry, Germany has zero economy. In the context of the current plan to see Germany's remaining nuclear plants shut down by January 23, Kretschmer describes the government's decision to turn back on a coal power station as madness. In fact, they shouldn't have been turned off. You don't transition to one form of energy until you have secured it and you maintain all reserves. You don't go overnight because if anything goes wrong, this is what happens. And guess what, Germany? Things went wrong. You have for hundreds of years been much better than this. You've been very, very efficient, especially in Blitzkrieg. But all of a sudden, you've gone completely stupid because you voted in the Green Party. And as we know, Greens are stupid. However, having been brought back into reserve in late 2021, federal authorities have now reportedly given the green light for Mayroom coal-fired plant back online in a desperate attempt to put more megawatts on the national grid, as well as free up vital gas supplies for use in home heating. This decision has been made despite the government's climate-crazy obsession with reducing carbon emissions. And this is Merkel, this is Mad Merkel, the old lady who doesn't understand how the world works. With coal burning now reportedly threatening the country's carbon emission goals. Well, yeah, but you created the crazy goals. If you'd have created no goals, then it wouldn't have been an issue. Some politicians want us to go even further, however, saying that gas should no longer be used in the country to generate electricity at all, and that nuclear and coal should be used to fill the gaps, though the country's Green Party economics minister, Robert I'm as mad as a bicycle Hayback, has claimed that this approach would lead to blackouts. Germany, get used to this idea. You're going to be having blackouts. Your industries are going to collapse. Your economy is going down the toilet because you voted for green politicians. And no matter where you put Greens in power, this is what results. Because as I say, the Greens are mad and stupid. There are system-relevant gas power plants that have to be supplied with gas. If they don't get any gas, serious disruptions occur, a spokesman for the politician said. Unfortunately, that is the reality of the electricity system, which you have to know in order to ensure security of supply. But they don't know. All they see is running the world on unicorn farts and rainbow-powered power stations. It doesn't work like that. Regardless of whether a full transition is possible or not, it's not. Germany's shift to coal may nevertheless not be sustainable in the long term, with a long-read Politico article claiming last week that the entirety of Europe will see a shortage in the fuel as a result of a combination of increased demand and sanctions on Russia. In fact, it's a terrible thing for Britain because Britain has about 20,000 years of coal reserves left. So we've got to start being very careful about how quickly we use our 20,000 years worth of coal reserves. Oh, and our 5,000 years worth of gas reserves. We're currently not fracking because of the Greens, but if we were fracking, gas would be about a third of the price. We'd have plenty, and we'd be making a fortune selling it. But the Greens. Anyway, I'm going to come up now and we can laugh at Germany in our own good time. Well, Michael Kretschmar has finally seen it. He's seen the light. He's seen the darkness coming. It's often far easier to continue a lie than it is to convince people that they were wrong and stupid. But the trouble with German politicians is they're wrong and stupid. They will not admit defeat. They will not admit that they were wrong because that is hubris. So they'll continue along this line, they'll push harder and harder, and the German people will suffer long, dark, cold winter's nights, probably for several years. When they're sitting alone in the dark and freezing, they can at least be comforted by the fact that they voted the right way. They're idiots. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, don't trust your energy policy to a foreign nation, and goodbye.